The first question you need to ask yourself is, are you flying for fun or are you flying for money or gain? Now, the rules that apply to you relate to how you are going to use your drone, either for fun or for money. So if you're flying for fun to share your videos and images with friends, you can be registered and tested in less than an hour. You pay a modest drone registration fee of $5 for the drone via the FAA Drone Zone website and pass a free basic knowledge test, which is called Trust. Now, if you're flying for money, gain or goodwill, you'll need to take a more rigorous exam and receive a Part 107 certification. Once you're certified for commercial operations, you'll be able to use your drone to capture photos, video, do roof inspections, sell stock imagery, work on film productions, any form of commercial drone pilotry where you get paid to do it. Now, 14 CFR Part 107, that is the FAA umbrella primary set of rules for all drone flights, for drones weighing under 55 pounds. But what happened was Congress created an exemption under this for limited recreational operations to allow those flying drones purely for fun or for personal enjoyment to operate without complying with the Part 107. But this exemption is within Part 107. That's the overall umbrella. Now, people flying under this exception are required to comply with the rules of recreational flying, which is we're going to have a look at now. So, what are the rules for recreational flyers? The first one is fly only for recreational purposes, personal enjoyment, not for commercial gain. And you've got to follow the safety guidelines of an FAA recognised community-based organisation, CBO, and they have a set of safety guidelines, and we go into that in quite a lot of detail in one of the later slides. So number 3 is you need to keep your drone within visual line of sight. You need to be able to see it and understand which way it's orientated at a distance. The fourth rule is give way and do not interfere with other aircraft or go anywhere near airports. Nobody wants any form of clash with manned aviation, so this is an obvious and common sense rule. The number 5 is do not fly in controlled airspace unless you have prior approval via an LAANC. We'll go into what an LAANC is, but you don't have to now contact air traffic control anymore for various airports if you're flying close to them. You go via the LAANC, which we'll talk about in another slide. Number 6 is never fly above an altitude of 400 feet in Class G airspace. And you also, there's an app now which you can check for any restrictions of where you're flying via the B4U Fly app. That'll tell you any restricted areas around you and it picks up your GPS location from your phone. Number 7 is take the Trust safety test, and then you have to carry proof that you have passed this test on you. Number 8 is have a current FAA registration number on the outside of your drone. The old regulations used to allow you to put the registration number within the drone, within the battery compartment, but now it has to be on the outside and visible. Number 9, do not operate your drone in a manner that endangers safety. An obvious one again, but you don't want to be acting like an idiot flying your drone near people, close to their heads, that sort of thing. And number 10 is don't fly over groups of people, stadiums, fly over events like baseball or American football, or get anywhere near emergency response efforts like fires or hurricanes, for want of a better thing. So those are the 10 different rules for recreational flyers under the exemption. Question 3 is what is the Trust test for drone flyers? Now, Trust is short for the Recreational UAS Safety Test, TRUST. It should take you about 30 minutes to complete, and you can't fail it. So if you get a question wrong, you go back over it and you do it again until you get it right. There are 4 quizzes within the test. I think there's about 23 questions in total, and which you answer, keep answering until you get the 100%. It is free, there is no charge. It is taken via an FAA approved test administration company. There are a lot of them out there. They're normally trying to sell training, but they should never ever charge you for the trust test. The trust test is free. If they're trying to charge you, they're trying to rip you off, and I would walk away from their website and go somewhere else. After completion, you can only download your test certificate once. Your data is not kept. So if you lose your test certificate, you will need to take the trust test again. You can't go into the hub and get your test certificate again. You can store it on Dropbox, or you could save it to a file, or whatever you want to do with it on your computer, and then you could reprint it. But if you lose your certificate and you haven't got a backup copy of it, then you will not have to take the test again. There is no expiration date on your certificate. It's valid forever, unless you lose it, obviously. And there's no age limit to take the trust test. Now, if you have a Part 107 and are flying for recreational purposes rather than commercial purposes, yes, you will need to take the trust test separate. Yes, you've probably done all of the questions, you know what they are because you've got the Part 107, but you do need to take the trust test if you're flying under the recreational rules rather than the commercial rules. Now, trust has no lower weight limit and covers all the UASs, multi-rotors, fixed wing and helicopters. So it's a catch-all for any radio-controlled type of aircraft. And you only need to show your certificate to an FAA person or an FAA authorised person or law enforcement. You don't have to show it to anybody else. So if Joe Public comes up to you and says, "Can I see your test certificate?" you don't have to show it to them. Only an FAA official or a law enforcement. That's what the test certificate is. But you should carry it with you when you're flying your drone. And trust is not linked or tied to drone registration via Drone Zone. So you take the test without having a drone, without having to register your drone. It's not linked to the two. They aren't tied together. And so that's what the trust test is for drone flyers. Let's move on to the next slide. Question 4 is, how do CBOs fit in with recreational flying and the rules of recreational flying? Well, one of the provisions, or one of the rules for recreational drone pilots is you have to select and operate according to the safety guidelines that have been developed by a community-based organisation, a CBO, with the FAA. Now, CBOs are normally a nationwide non-profit organisation that promotes recreational flying and organises events, and they have club events, and they have a lot of activity. So this underscores the role of the CBOs and how relevant they are in terms of educating and enforcing safety restrictions on recreational drone flights. They were clubs that came together initially for fixed wing type stuff. Now there are four at the moment, FAA approved CBOs. One is called FTCA, Flight Test Community Association. Another one's related to FPV flying. It's called the FPV Freedom Coalition. And then there's the Academy of Model Aeronautics, which is known as AMA. And there's a new one called STEM plus C, which is Science, Technology, Engineering, Maths and Creativity. Now, access to the approved safety guidelines of these CBOs is free, completely free. You do not need to be a member, and they should be, so at their websites you should be able to access them. We'll have a look in a short while and look at the safety guidelines and be able to download them. So the CBO safety guidelines cover really a list of common sense type rules, but they do have specific things. I'll give you a couple of examples. So flight test community, I'll just read this over now. Flying overhead, they don't allow flying over people. They want you to stay 25 feet from other pilots, and they want you to stay 50 feet from spectators. That's the Flight Test Community Association's set of guidelines. On the AMA, there's no flying over people. You have to stay 100 feet from spectators during free flights, 25 feet from individuals like the FTCA, 50 feet from spectators, 50 feet from power lines, for example. FPV is slightly different. They cover quite a few other different things. And then there's stuff like night operations, visual line of sight. We'll have a look at the various different safety guidelines of these different organisations now. Here is the FAA website page that explains about recreational drone flyers. And you can see I've highlighted recreational drone flyers must use FAA recognised CBO safety guidelines to meet the statutory requirements of section 44809. However, recreational flyers are not required to become members of a CBO. So below there you'll see there's 4 different recognised CBOs which we've talked about: the Academy of Model Aeronautics, First Person View Freedom Coalition, Flight Test Community Association and STEM Plus C. We'll look at those individual websites in a short while. But this is the page that shows you that you need to have a set of guidelines with you. I would suggest you take a copy of them with you and store them with your test certificates as well from Trust. You can look at the different CBO's safety guidelines by clicking on the 4 links below. I'll click on the first one and we'll have a look at their safety guidelines. But I suggest you read through all 4 and see which one suits you best. They're all very similar. You just have to decide which one you want to use yourself. Let's have a look at them now. Here's the safety guidelines for AMA. You can scroll down. There's the table of contents. There's 11 pages. I won't go through them all with you, but these highlights here are the main ones. So it's as an AMA member, I agree, and it's got fly directly over unprotected people, moving vehicles, I will avoid that. It also says about distances on here as well. So just be aware, those are the items. You just need to read through those. That's a summary of what they want you to agree. Here are the safety guidelines for FPV Freedom Coalition. You can see them here. And they've put a download button as a PDF, which is very helpful, so you can do that. Here are the guidelines for FTCA. As we scroll down, you'll see the various headings about uncontrolled airspace, first person view, but this is quite an interesting one. Fly near or in proximity to other people. Do not fly your model aircraft closer than 25 feet laterally for other pilots. Do not fly your model aircraft closer than 50 feet laterally from other people, spectators. So you can see those there, and if you scroll right to the bottom, they've got a download button as well here. And this is the STEM Plus C website, and what they've asked you to do is join them. They've now waived the fee of $100 and made it free, and you can then download the safety guidelines, or they call it a charter. And here is a copy of the STEM CBO safety guidelines once you've filled out one of their forms and joined them. If you enjoyed this video, then subscribe to the channel or watch the next video in the playlist or the new videos that we've just recently downloaded. Bye for now.